I know that the weather has been playing with us a little bit because it doesn't know whether it wants to be summer warm or fall brisk. So we've had some days of fall briskness and some days of summer warmth. But there's one thing that we do know, and that is fall eventually will stay here. And whenever fall comes around for me, I always think about football season. And I'm fine with high school football and NFL, but there's something about college football that just gets me. And nothing, though, prepared me for college football when I moved to Tennessee. Because you see, the college that I went to back in Ohio University, back then, although we beat Kansas yesterday, but back then, we didn't have a football team that was much to speak of. Our big attraction was the band. We had an awesome band. And so everybody would flood the stadium to watch the band. But then as soon as halftime was over, people would start leaving. By third quarter, there probably would be maybe half to a third of the stadium still full, and then after that, there'd be just a few sprinkling of people there because everybody came to see the band. So when I moved to Tennessee, nothing prepared me for the way Tennesseans love their college football. And so I had the opportunity one year, right when I first got here, to travel to Knoxville. Some of y'all know.
Rocky Top.
And I went there to watch the University of Tennessee Volunteers play those How About Them Dogs, Georgia Bulldogs. And so when I got there, the group I was traveling with, because I knew that particular year, both teams were very competitive. In fact, for the game, I think Georgia was slightly favored over Tennessee. And so as I was saying that to the people that were part of the trip with me, one of them said, that's okay because we've got home field advantage. And so as we got there, as I said, nothing had prepared me. As we made our way through the stadium, and I saw these RVs that were painted orange. I saw people all over, they had their babies dressed up in UT outfits. I was talking to a guy and I looked straight in his mouth and he actually had UT in Nothing had prepared me for that. Home field advantage. And so when we got into the stadium, and I looked all around, and I saw all of this orange on one side, and I saw all of this red on the other side, and people standing up and cheering, and I felt the energy, and I felt the excitement, and I felt all of that, and I thought about, yes, home field advantage. And so as the game went on, people were rooting for that. I was in the vibration of it. I felt really good about the fact that I was in this throng of people that were cheering for their teams, and there was a celebration that was going on, and Tennessee did win. Home field advantage. And I thought about that just a few days ago as the weather was playing with me, about home field advantage and what it means. And when we think about it, home field advantage is something that we can experience all the time, even now for us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to football. Because I thought about some of the factors that I saw at the game and some of the things that happened. And here you had this stadium full of people that were cheering for the Volunteers, this stadium full of people who were there celebrating them. And I thought about, wow, we have been saying even this month when we talked about dare to be yourself, and last month, celebrate yourself. The fact that how we want to get to a certain point where we are able to free ourselves from the negative opinions of people, but also from the positive and good opinions of people. It's just good sometimes to have people that are rooting for you, right? It just feels good to know that sometimes when you've made that effort to put on something nice and maybe make your face up a little more than usual, or maybe put something on that makes you smell good, and all of those things, to have somebody notice and to be in your corner, it just feels good, right? It's something that we all like to have. We like to have people that we know are in our corner, people that are rooting for us, people that see us and they hold us in the highest and the best good. They understand those things about us. It's good to have a home field advantage, and we have that, and we have people pulling for us in that way. It's important oftentimes. I remember years prior to my moving to Memphis when I was in Dallas and I was in seminary and I was doing an internship, and I was the first black person on the staff at a church there, Highland Park United Methodist Church, which was one of the largest churches in Texas at the time. Years before there even were mega churches, it was a mega church. It had 9,000 people. Even Tom Landry, the Dallas Cowboys coach, went to that church. And so I was there and I had the opportunity to preach in the chapel. And it was a big thing, a big occasion for me. And I remember being nervous and excited all in the same time and all of that. And so I went to the chapel, and I remember I got up in the pulpit, and I stood in the pulpit, and I kind of got out of my nervousness, and I started my message. And all of a sudden, I heard this amen. Everybody looked around, and I said something else, and I heard this amen. People were searching, because this was a place where that kind of stuff just didn't happen. But what went on was that I was a part of the pastoral care staff, and the man who was in charge of the pastoral care staff, wife, had bonded with me, and she had come because she wanted me to feel at home. And she said, I know the church where you go to when you preach, they normally say amen. And so she was saying now, it was kind of out of rhythm, and she wasn't saying amen, she was amen. And so it threw me off. But it was good to have somebody, even though it had everybody else looking at her like she had lost her mind, to pull for you. It just feels good sometimes to have people that are on your side, that are pulling for you, that you have home field advantage. It's like the story that I like to tell all the time about the two frogs that were hopping down the road, and they fell in this big hole. And when they got there, and they both were frightened, and when they looked around, they saw all these other frog bones that were there, and they knew they needed to try and get out, and these frog bones made them really scared and really nervous, and so they both started trying to hop. And as they started to hop, some frogs came and they gathered around the hole, and they were yelling down to them, and they were gesturing, and they were telling them, you need to just stop, because no frog has ever made it out. And so the first frog finally gave up and just sat there waiting to die. But the second frog kept hopping, and the frogs kept saying, stop it, you're wasting your energy, it's useless, you can't do it. But he kept on hopping, and he got a good hop, and he got all the way up out of the hole onto the side. He had done something no other frog had ever done before. And so they all gathered around him, and they were saying, that's amazing, how did you do that? We've never seen another frog do that. And they kept talking, the frog just kind of was looking at them with sort of a dazed and confused expression on his face, and they continued to talk to the frog, and the frog was just there, and another frog said, wait a minute, pushed his way through the crowd, said, I know. He hopped over to the frog, he looked at the frog, and he started signing. He was talking to him in sign language. The frog talked to him back. He turned to the other frogs and said, well, you know, he's hearing impaired. And so when you were yelling at him to stop and to give up, he couldn't hear you, but he saw you doing all this, and he thought that you were cheering him on and telling him to try harder. And that's how he made it out of it. It's just good to have somebody on your side. It's good to have home field advantage, isn't it? In what we call the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament, if you understand something about the history, in the beginning, books and all of that, I know we have oftentimes advanced beyond this understanding, but if you take it back into its context, it's about basically different tribes and their God that are living with each other, sometimes fighting with each other, but it's different tribes that are there. And Israel is no different in that context. It's another tribe, a federation of tribes, if you will, but ultimately it's about a group of people who are a tribe, and they have conflicts and wars with other tribes and all of those things that happened there. But there was something particular about Israel that if you read the stories and you understand the context, each tribe had their own God, and their own God had a place that they were considered to be powerful, and they considered to be their domain and their habitat and all of that. And for Israel, if you understand, one of the words that they used to describe and call God was El Shaddai. And I know you hear people talk about the names of God and all of those things, and I like to talk about them as attributes of God. But one of the ways in which you can translate El Shaddai is Lord of the mountain. Lord of the mountain. And it was believed by people in that day where Israel's God resided was in the mountains. Some of you are familiar with the psalm that says, I lift my eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord, the hills being the mountain. And as you read through the scriptures, you will find mountains playing prominent parts and prominent places there. You know, you have places like Mount Nebo and Mount Carmel and Mount Sinai and Mount Ararat and Mount Zion and all of those, and all the Baptist churches have those names today. But if you think about it, that's where that comes from. The idea that God, Israel's God, was located in the mountains. And so what would happen, there's several accounts where the Israelites would be at war with another tribe, and they might find themselves at a disadvantage. And so what they would do is that they would turn and they would begin to flee to the mountains, and their enemy would stop. And they pull back and say, wait, we can't do this. Because if they make it to the mountains, they will be powerful, because that's where their God is, El Shaddai. And so if you think about it for a moment and you take that understanding, moving into that, they were saying basically is, if we let them get there, they've got a home field advantage. Think about this. We say that there is no spot where God is not. We consider ourselves to be God in expression. We talk about God lives, in which we live, move, and have our being. We sang a new song last week, and we talked about I am a place where God shows up. I am a place where God lives, moves, breathes, and has its being. So if you take that to its natural extension and its full extension, what it ultimately is saying to us, if we know the truth, and the truth being that there is no place where God is not, and that God is within us, and God is all around us, and God is continuing to abide with us and be us, that means that no matter where you are, no matter what you are doing, no matter what is happening, no matter what is going on, no matter what the circumstance is, the experience, or anything else, you have a home field advantage. Amen. It simply means that you are never at a disadvantage because you've got a home field advantage, and you know who you show up with and who you show up as. And so when life wants to deal you this or that, when in your battles or your contest or your circumstances or whatever else it might be, you might have been discouraged before. You might have talked about, well, this seems really kind of hard, or seems maybe even impossible. You might have even given up. You might have even gotten discouraged or frustrated or anything else. But I'm here to tell you from this day forward, understand you have a home field advantage. There is no spot where God is not. Every place I am, God is. And all that I do and say, God is with me, in me, through me, expressing itself. And life, bring it on. Come on. Because you're in my territory. Because we have to understand, I have a home field advantage. And so it is.
And so it is.
knowing that there is only one presence and one power in the universe, and that is God. And as each of us embodies all that we've learned today, we take it in, we make it our own, and we simply live from those very truths. We give thanks for all that have participated today. give thanks for the music, the centering moment, the affirmative reading, the lesson, and just all of the energy that each and every person has brought into this space and into this place today. And knowing as we move forward that there is not a spot where God is not. So whatever it is that's going on, God's there, I'm there. Whatever it is that's going on, I don't have to run to the mountains. I don't have to try to find a hill, a valley, or anything else. I've got home field advantage because I am the spot where God is. God is right here and right now in me. So whatever it is, score is already done. So I release, I let go, and I let God, and so it is.
So it is.